Speedway. You're watching ONTrack Weekly.
Cam K here with you, a little bit tired and a little bit sore. It's been a crazy couple of days, so I figured we do a nice, relaxing breakdown of Motorama 2025. Hopefully, you can hear me loud and clear. I'm right by the laptop this time, so it shouldn't be too quiet. Still trying to get my voice back a little bit, but we had 3 days at the International Center in Toronto, right by the airport, and this was probably I've been going to Motorama for only I think it's only been four. This was my fourth year, and wow, do I have to say things were amazing. Um, I just I think this was the first time I've enjoyed it through and through all the way. Minus some dental issue at the very, very end that caused me to leave a little bit early, and that is why I'm still sitting here. I'm still dealing with some facial pain from a procedure earlier today. But man, we talked about it on this show, and we talked about how this could really good go very, very well or not. Um, I'm curious for those that are watching tonight what their views are. Do you feel that the show lived up to the hype? Did it supersede the hype? Did the racing zone supersede the hype? What needs to be done? What needs to be fixed? I've heard from a lot of different people that were at the show. We're going to go through what people's thoughts were. And I don't want this to come off as a shot or um, criticism. Um, we'll take it as constructive criticism. This is what people within the racing community would like. This is what their true opinions are. And I really, really hope that we don't go backwards. We continue to grow. The really impressive thing this year was our podcast corner. We went from 3 podcasts. We added in 2 more media members with Turn 3 and with Only Fours. We had Ashley McCubbin joining us from Short Track Musings, Susie Shepard from Shepard Media. The racing, and we easily could have had more. I mean, you could have had Adam Ross, Clinton Jeffrey, but they were busy doing their uh, own duties. Racetime Radio. I didn't see Joe Chisholm there. He may have been, um, but I did not see him. I know they had the mic there, so um, we'll see if he was around. He'll likely release some interviews. Um, but I know for us at GeForce TV, it's always a great opportunity to get to meet people, get to meet racers, get to see people that we don't typically get to finally meet Sean's Garage in person. Um, and it it's awesome. I think the coverage that's going to come out of it, I think Wide World of Motorsports. I'm not sure. I don't believe True North did any interviews um, at the show, um, aside from on stage, but True North got. I think they did a 3 hour block um, on Saturday at one point. You had Todd Lewis there, which he never gets to be there because I think St. Pete typically interferes with that. Um, and you had Stickers and Scuffs there. Graydon Bunn was able to make it on Friday, which was awesome. Um, and Only Fours I know did a ton of interviews, so he'll get his stuff out there. Um, and Turn Three had footage done. Like I said, Wide World Motorsports, James Jordan, he did interviews, and they've posted that out there. Uh, he and Damon were there this past weekend, and you know it. I look at it. I look at the show and I feel like we're really close, but I feel like there's still there's just something missing, and I don't know what it is. Whether it's a layout, whether it's the hall, um, missing types of series. I think that for me, it's a big question mark as to what. It's just like when you talk about a sponsorship. What is the ROI? What is the return of investment when you go to a show like this? Because it is extremely expensive for the vendors. It's extremely expensive for those series and tracks that come to the show. The booths are extremely expensive. Travel, hotels, gas, food. Is going to a show going to get you all of that? Well, I can't go out and say that it will, but what it does, and I felt this weekend, I think more than ever, is it brought people together to chat and talk, connect. There's a great connection towards the end of the show with, Johnny Peredzinski and Tegan Stanley, two drivers, one from Peterborough, one from Sunset, and it was you don't get to see that. We had the girls from Sobel and Peterborough and Sunset all together. It's just a way to be able to bring people together and connect when they don't get to do that. And that's the same for us that do stuff in the media. I mean, I don't get to see Jomo that often. We do. We're gonna probably see each other a little bit more this year, because Jomo, he's got the Flambro deal down pat, but Rich, doing the stuff for the bone stocks, um, Scott and Ryan from Turn Three with hot rods, and they'll likely cover a whole bunch of other stuff. Wide World Motorsports, they kind of cover everything. John kind of covers everything. We kind of cover everything. But it gets us an opportunity to get together and be together, and I think it's bringing out the best of us, and it's making the podcast corner like where compared to where we were last year. I was blown away with what Jomo put together and what Wide World Motorsports put together. Only Fours, Turn Three, Ashley McCubbin was there, and they all brought materials. They all brought something else to the show, and it allowed so many people that are in the racing community to get an interview, to get photos. That I don't think people understand how much of an importance that we need to continue doing this in the off season all season long. There's no debating this. Social media is as much as people don't like it, it is what drives traffic. And a perfect example is I looked at our analytics in stickers and scuffs from prior to Motorama before we posted stuff following the first couple of days. And there is a legitimate spike in the numbers, and not a little spike, a massive spike. We gain followers. We gain those interested in the podcast. We get subscribers. We get interest from people wanting to come on the show. It does wonders. And for a good while, there are moments where we don't feel as if I'm turning it up, guys. Uh, Sorry, Rick. Yeah, I'm not able to turn the mic up as much. It's my voice more than anything can. Um, I'm I talked the entire um 3 days, and the air is really dry in that building, and so I'm still trying to get my voice back. So hopefully that's a little bit louder so you can hear. I apologize if it's not. Yeah, Austin, buddy. I so aside from being really sore, I also had uh I had a filling fallout right at the end of the show, and I had to go get that procedure done, and so I still have freezing in, and on top of that, I now have a lot of pain that I'm dealing with. But I wanted to talk about this because the show, man, it meant so much to me to see. I'm not gonna go out and I'm not gonna lie here. I'm gonna say that I felt like the autograph session that we did with stickers and scuffs, respectfully to those that have been at the show for years, but I don't know why we haven't done that. I There needs to be panels and autograph sessions all freaking weekend in the racing zone and not just specific at one track. I think you can go and do it at the tracks, but have something consistently. We could have been right at the front with people coming in. I think that's kind of more where it should have been so that people come in and they can get stuff right away. Um, when you move off to the side, you can see what I felt this time around is that there's a lot of people that they just go buy stuff. They don't stop to pay attention and to look. Um, but I I just the one thing that the vision kind of was and yeah, I mean, yeah, having less, as John says, having less podcast times and set them up on the stage, that would be great. And I I think this is where we have renewed. I mean, this is what I feel. I don't know if everybody else feels this way, but I feel there is renewed excitement about it. Now, I will be honest here that, and if anybody from the show was watching, um, the consensus is that the costs are a little high, and we know that that has to change within if you want to keep people going to the show. The other side of it is, and I kind of feel it's gotten to this point the last 2 years, and I think people might agree. I think it's outgrown the hall that it's in. I think it's a little too squished, and we can make this even bigger. Now, what Cam K is thinking about following the show is I want driver autograph sessions, I want podcasts, I want race cars there with our vendors that are selling stuff. We don't want any non-related racing vendors. And that's no disrespect for them. They pay to just go into the show as well. However, there's other places that I feel like they could go, right? I mean, racing is so niche. Cars are always going to be popular. You're always going to have partners that are going to go with cars. That's always going to happen. You are always going to have companies that are affiliated with specifically cars and car building. You're going to have random companies that are going to be there. Put those with the other halls. I think if you're going to do something and say it's a motorsports show, you need to have everything motorsports in one section. And I know that can be difficult, but if, like, for me, I would be putting that Gulf Racing Fuels in the actual Gulf Racing Fuels hall. Um, that is the presenting partner. They need to be there. It does get difficult though, I admit. I mean, if you're gonna have cars and people that don't show up, that's gonna be difficult. However, it, it seems like there's a lot of people that would love to work with the show, or bring suggestions forward. And I hope that those at the show know, that we have a ton of heart in this racing community. And I think following COVID, things were a little slow. Um, I want to be able to see CVMs there. I think Pro Challenge is there. I want to see Grand Bend there. It is a lot, like we're talking, if we can get Laird to come down, that's a massive ask. Brighton Speedway to be there. Um, the Pro Challenge cars, I want to see them on display. I think those things are extremely attractive, first of all. There's a benefit to having a program like this. There's a benefit to bringing not just the racers to the forefront. And let's be honest here. What are we doing and what did we ask for? We didn't ask people to make brand new hero cards for our autograph session. People had a ton left over. And you know what was suggested to me is have the drivers also bring their old merch and give old merch out as well. And the biggest problem right now, as Craig mentions, is the show is overpriced. We have to get to a point where we can get people in all for the same types of costs. I understand that people want bigger booths and they want this and they want that and they want this and they want that. But it would appear to me from the consensus that I got from most people is that the costs are the main reason why A, they don't go, and B, why they don't have a car there, and C, why they don't come down, just to visit. Now, I think the admission prices, they're okay. Food is a little too expensive. I expect that at a show. That seems to be the narrative there. Um, I agree. In there's a lot of options here. I think driver merch, being for sale. There's options here that I think if it was a dedicated spot. So let me just, you know, uh, you know, I I would like to say that, um, first off, there's going to be so much racing that's trying to fight for it, right? And I think nowadays you don't have just oval track racing in there. They have off-road racing, they have road racing, they have, and we're talking stuff that like there's a perfect example of, um, simulators that take up a pretty big amount of space, right? Well, let's also look at certain things. As Pops had mentioned, the stage is right close to where we were trying to do it. It is, yeah, there we go. Return on investment for suppliers, as Craig says, is just not worth it. Um, it is. They're gonna have to look at that if they want it to continue to get bigger and better, especially considering how the cost of everything is nowadays. There's no debating that the cost is a lot. Now, will I go out and say that the show is absolutely horrible? No, I'm not. But I think that what we got to have for our racers with SNS was a great experience. However, there's periods where people just don't know what to do, and we could promote it. That may have been more of my fault that I didn't ask the show to promote that we were having drivers autograph sessions. But there's also a lot of people that have no idea about racing. So having the OSS booth where it was, and having the cars there is a great way to get great exposure to them as well. But that kind of area is kind of you could have the thinner reason, the thinner size, um, and have that set up for just driver autographs or mini driver booths. Um, in what I mean by that is that's a dedicated spot where drivers could sell their merch, drivers could have hero cards, they could do autographs there. It's asking a lot of the racers. It's asking a lot of people because the kids that we had, I felt really bad. Um, th there was unfortunately like racers that they're kids. They don't kind of, it's t intimidating to try and get people to come and take your stuff. And we felt this year that for whatever reason, maybe people just weren't as interested in obtaining stuff. We still got rid of a ton of hero cards, which was great, but there were periods where it just, it wasn't what we needed. And I almost feel as well what we should have done is put some sort of a barrier so that people wouldn't stand in front. Because what was happening is people were standing in front of all the cards, having conversations with people, and then others like they would just walk by, right? So there's just growing pains, right? Rich says I would like to see some level of seating in front of the Gulf fuel stage to stop the relentless traffic flow in front. You know what, Rich? We did have that the first year that I was there. Um, we They had it off to the side. There was about a good amount of chairs that they had there, and it unfortunately, I think it's different probably now because the show was a lot busier, but it the seating really didn't get filled up much. Um, you know, the nameplates, yes, absolutely, Rich. That was definitely something that I was looking at, but unfortunately, just I didn't get enough time to build that. That's why I had the whiteboard sign, but it really wasn't there wasn't enough time for that. And unfortunately, I think by doing what we did, by putting it in the podcast booth, is it kind of opens up that kind of idea as to a driver central kind of area would have been ideal. Um, it's a central place for people that are coming to the show to get their name out. Um, the, Anybody use and get rid of old merch, but you could do all sorts of great things. So Mike, I want to throw what like Mike Homewood. Mike Homewood came with a piece of his race car and had little ballots and wanted to do a giveaway. Um, it it is definitely like what uh you know yeah, and see that's the thing. Um, Megan says, yeah, people think that they have to pay for the hero cards. So that's kind of the thing that we need to kind of get the message across. And if I had more people there, I think what we needed is just more people. Um, the more and more volunteers that we could have had in that section to bring people because I was going back and forth doing trying to do what I was supposed to do for my booth with the SNS racers. I wasn't able to commit fully to the autograph session. And I feel really actually I feel quite bad because there was some like Dave Evison and Graceland McKinnis there um were I didn't get to spend any time with them and chat. I spent a little time with Dave, but I didn't get to spend really much time at all with Graceland. And morning session is just so busy. But if we have some volunteers that are willing to help us corral people to the autograph booth and show them kind of what's going on. I think again, like you said, I think that the spacing is the hardest part with the food court there. To me, the space is perfect for straight cars. It is perfect for that because you have that kick out where the food court is. Now, one suggestion that a very smart man had was if you put even the stage right at the front of where the show starts, right across from the food court, everybody in the food court can hear what's going on the stage. I think, um, we tried out this autograph session for stickers and scuffs, and um, it was something that was a spur of the moment deal. Uh, and I remember that I think it was years ago that NASCAR Canada had like a row of drivers and they were doing signing and I said, well, like my thought behind this was, well, why not do this for um our grassroots racers, the people that need to get their name out more than anybody. I mean, they're starting out. They're in the divisions that, aren't NASCAR. NASCAR's a name that everybody that's in racing knows, right? But it's the small divisions, it's the track racers, the touring divisions that don't get a ton of appreciation, a ton of love. Um, we've fallen in love with that. And you can get racers from all across. You can get CASC racers, you can get road racers, you can get anybody you want. You can have an Ontario Racers autograph session and literally make it just like the IndyCar one and have it where you can have a lineup on either side for autographs. And it's just probably because I didn't we it's really hard to put in perspective here, but the amount of work that it took um, to do that. And mind you, it was really kind of one person that was doing it. It was just me that was trying to organize it all, and that was just for SNS racers. However, I think that the show could use this and build and make it a huge, huge thing. Can you imagine if all 3 days, you have racers from every type of division, all across Canada, all across Ontario? That would be it. Um, and Rick mentions a banner, and it's absolutely true. It is. It's definitely difficult because you have to have the cost to do all this stuff too. And I think as we talk about, we're a podcast. We don't have the money to do that, but it's when I look at this and I go, okay, I know it says it's a car and motorsports expo, but how many halls are dedicated to racing? Like that's the big question for me right now. I want to see image wraps there. I want to see Epic Racewear. We want to see DJD gear. We want to see the people that are involved week in and week out. I want to see, Sauble Speedway have 4 or 5 cars there, right? Like, if you consider how we could lay it out, where let's say you have on the way I envision this is similar to like the first hall, you have the tents on the outside perimeter and you have the cars in front of them that race there, and then you can have some small vendors in the middle. Now, again, I'm looking at this from a completely outside perspective. I'm using like that first hall. That's not going to get replaced, right? It is there's just I think about having the tents on the outside. The problem is that hall 2 doesn't have enough room to put all those. So, but I definitely think that that layout is useful because when you get people out around the outside, it's not going to get as clogged up in the middle. Because when people stop, there's no room to go anywhere else. Um, so I kind of like, and I understand. Listen, all respect to Avery, Mike, and Chip Foose and stuff. They're definitely the they're the guys for the car, booth. They're the car guys, right? And they're the celebrities, the Netflix celebrities. The first thing I thought about was was what could who could we bring next year? I'm not This is not my show. This is not I have nothing to do with the show. The first thing I thought about was like we had Ray Evernham on our show, or we had Alan Bestwick. Uh, you know, we could do a cast car legend panel. We could do um uh free Kenny Wallace or Kenny Schrader with Glenn Stiers. Like there's just like this is the way my mind works around this is just like the options are endless. It's just it all comes down to the money dollar and um it just like the diecast area, that's perfect. Like that's exactly what we would need. Um but this is kind of the thing that I think all of us kind of want is maybe like as was mentioned earlier, that motorsports could become a bit of a bigger focus, um, and try and level out a little bit. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if you bring in people in divisions racing from all over and build it into a 5 hall show instead of a 4 hall show, I think that that benefits everybody. Yes, the cost is going to be more, and it's going to drive the promoters and the ones that do it crazy. Um, but it's also the racing zone. If you consider the food court area has a big section that has a chunk out of it basically because the food court is there. So there's less room in it. Now, I I would love to have like the racing corral have room so that the cars can be put on an angle and you can have driver signs in front of them. You can have the driver there. They can have their own tent. But like I said, there's if we can maybe limit the size of those booths, you know, cut the costs down. It is, yes, CTMP is there exactly. It was not there exactly. Rick, that's one that I would think you definitely would want to be able to get. Um, I I definitely think that we're onto something. I think what was really cool was we were on Tracktune. Was it promoted that it was going to be on Tracktune? I don't know. Um, but we've got people, I think, in place that are certainly of the ability to make the show as bigger and better as it could be. But again, I'm just someone that was there. Um, I feel as if that this has, you know, I mean, Craig, I kind of agree with you. Is it time for a motorsports only show at a smaller venue? I mean, with all due respect, I mean, it is, and Brandon brings up a really big point here, and it was kind of the first thing that I said to people is I can't tell that Jacob Sutcliffe and Brandon Feeney's cars and Joe Kick's cars are back there because there's a curtain and it looks like the show ends. It looks like it's blocking it, and I understand it's a divider um to separate, but it kind of you lose the you lose a lot of things. And I mean, like as Dwayne says, uh, live demonstrations, a live rap would be amazing to see. Pit crew challenges, more going on for fans. You got to make it kind of attractive, and I think at the end of the day, it is really difficult to go out there and say, okay, well, are we going to go and enjoy ourselves just looking at some race cars, or hell, I mean, the race car build was a great thing that they did a couple years, or I think it was last year maybe, or a couple years ago. Um, but the awards I think would mean a little bit more as well for the best looking paint schemes, and um, we would need, like, it would need to have, um, there would be needing to be a lot. Um, yeah, I mean, isn't a motorsports only show preaching to the choir? The main benefit of the of this is to attract the new fan. Yeah, and that's the hard thing, right? I like to see different divisions compete in the pit crew challenge. That'll be interesting. Um, and I think, like, again, John and I were there for the awards, and it kind of it kind of sucked because it didn't feel big. I mean, we did the best that we could. Um, it would have been nice to have a little bit of a crowd like they do for the McGuire stage. But I kind of look at it and go, like, this is like the conversation that I see going on in the chat. That is what we need. We've got people talking about options, you know, build this, make it a bigger show, make this, do this, you know, and there's there's a lot of things that I think, I think we could continue to build on. And um, for us in the podcast corner, I think the issue that we ran into this year, and that we have run into multiple times, is noise and space. And if I wasn't using so much space, it probably could have worked a little bit better. We did have some people that were just sitting around in the booth that, I understand. Um, yeah, racers were second class citizens stuffed in the corner. Yeah, we don't need that, right? Craig, um we need a proper stage. I think that's evident. I would have loved to be on a big stage with uh, you know, both of them. And yeah, I personally believe that we could do panels. Um, Rich, there's enough, like, you've got John Morrison, you have myself, you have Todd Lewis, you have um, uh, uh, the wide world of motorsports. Make it big, make it personable. I'd love to do an ONTrack Weekly live and have drivers from all over Ontario. And you know, depending on how many people you could have 10 drivers from one track. I think that that is entirely possible. And can you imagine if you got the live stream that we got for the McGuire's Awards last night for racing panels, and then everybody that was on it can share that to their partners, share that on social media. I I think that I keep saying, like, I keep saying I think, but the more and more I go about this, it drives me kind of crazy that I feel like we took a giant stride this year, and we still have room to continue to grow. Um, I look at this and go, what is stopping us from making this bigger? Well, nothing is stopping us. If it doesn't, if it's not in the cards financially, that's one thing. But if we have the drive and determination to continue to push things and make it as big as possible, we can do it. At the end of the day, people have got to listen, right? We've got to be able to build and make things strong. Hell, I've talked about wanting to do a Stickers and Scuffs banquet, like what the hell am I thinking, right? Like I'm already going crazy, but is you can do media panel, you could do drivers. We talked about doing a junior late panel, having all those kids up there. I'm telling you, Thomas Gibbons and Cole and Carter and Josh, the Rylan, those kids are hilarious. Just having them in having them in the booth, you could have Morgan and Brody, and yeah, sure, some of these kids are out, they're not junior lates, but like the young racers panel that talk about an experience that you just what you'd never be able to get. And that's the thing that I love that they got to experience autograph session that's not at the track. It's different. It's you're gonna try and win over people that aren't typically, they might not be racing fans. They're car fans that are just walking by, or that they've never been to this type of show before. And there was a lot of interest um, on the Saturday. It was insane, and I I I love what I experienced this weekend. Not enough time to talk to everybody I'd like to, um, and that sucks because I was there for so long, and I still feel like I talked to people for like 5 minutes at max. Um, some people we did interviews for a little bit longer, and it's a different type of experience to do a lot of planning for a specific part of the show, doing the DACL program, taking pictures and doing interviews. But that whole experience, and then being on stage as well, and then announcing the winner awards with Jomo, who I don't talk about um, my anxiety issues and panic issues enough, but uh, without John Morrison this weekend, I was not going to be there, first of all, for all 3 days. And without John Morrison, the end of my show could have ended really bad. And um, Jomo doesn't get enough credit for what he's done for racing. And uh, I love the guy. He definitely was the all-star this weekend. And all of our podcasters that showed up this weekend was, I'm so thankful for all of them making this become more. This was just an idea that John and I talked about, and um, you know, and you know what? I'm not gonna go out and make shit up. This was John's baby. I mean, we talked about it coming home. I think the first time, I don't even remember. I think we were going to Flamborough, and we talked about Motorama, and he, really talked about doing a podcast area or a podcast booth, and then it just kind of snowballed. And he shouldn't have told me because, when I get, when someone gives me an idea, it definitely goes crazy. And my idea, actually for next year, um, for a racing guest, actually, I see because Rich has pointed it out. I kind of want to see if we can get Cletus McFarland. I know it's a really, really, like, it might be a really, really tough deal to try and get him, but I kind of really want to see if we could do that. Because if we're talking about, like, this is the thing, it's not about bringing in just, like Bobby Allison like they did in the past, or I honestly couldn't tell you who else because I honestly don't know, but I looked at it and go, like, how cool would it be if we were able to get a Ray Evernham or, you know, um, Cletus McFarland, and hell, bringing somebody that maybe he's not like Alan Bestwick, who's not, um, doing commentary all the time anymore, or um, even just having a panel with the NASCAR Canada guys, with Dave Bradley and Todd Lewis. Like I want to see Todd Lewis get interviewed because Todd's got stories for days, and Joe Chisholm. Um, I I think that in terms of like just yeah, Richard Petty. That's right. Richard Petty was there. Yeah, that's right. But now we've got an opportunity. You could try and get Greg Biffle, or you could get again. We're talking massive amounts of money, likely. I mean, I would expect Cole Pern, Martin Truex. It's a tough kind of idea to put out there, but I genuinely think people would be very interested to have special guests. Kenny Wallace is always somebody um, uh, that brings a ton of attention. Todd Bodine, I would love to see the Onion. Scott Goodyear, excellent choice there. Mark Martin. Um, I was thinking Steve Robley. Have Steve come back and do something. Um, it just can. Well, that's exactly it, Feeney. I was thinking like because you got Glenn Stiers and Stiers is buddies with Ken Strader, right? Stiers really could get a ton of people if you know we work it right. Because he's connected with really everybody. You could get Joe Nemechek, um, front row Joe, because he just raced for him, uh, down in Florida. Um, so I think like hell, what about like Matt Kenseth, right? There's options out there, I think, to really build it. But the biggest, like I said, the biggest thing is that's most important is to get those partners and to get people to really buy into the show. I mean, and that's the thing that people are mentioning. Collins Bunch Mess here in the '90s, they had a NASCAR panel, and that's the thing. I remember the NASCAR panel. I never even got to be there for that. Um, it is and see for all we yeah, Norm Benning definitely would come up. Tim could definitely get him to come up. Not a problem. The problem is with active racers is the schedule they're running, right? You'd have to get somebody who's like that would interfere with Todd as well. Um I don't I don't know about like you'd have to get likely a retired guy or somebody that's not running full time like you got to get those companies up there. I like to see in INEX booth now that you got Bandoleros. Yeah, exactly, Sam. It's their season started. You have to go retired. Um, is um, I'd like to see, and I could do like a ladies of the oval panel. You know, I want to see this. That might be somebody that I don't know people. But I want to see Kelly Williams come out and do a panel. She's someone who is a legend in Canadian racing for what she did, being in CASCAR. Um, and I think it'd be a little more daunting, obviously, for the younger racers to be up on a big stage like that. But we have the ability to do something like a Legends panel, Ontario Legends panel, or put the two together with Great Lakes Legends. You can have like the way I'm thinking of it is like Comic Con. I'm a huge fan of Comic Con. I watch the Comic Con panels all the time online. And what they typically have is, for movies, they'll have a producer, a writer, the actors that are on it, and people love it. They do a big introduction for when they come out. You know, you could make it a really big thing, and you're like this hall has this show going on for something specifically for the racers and specifically for racing fans. Um, it is exactly, Sam. It's all about finding the right potential guest, and somebody that would do it. And likely most people that want to that would come, they would need an appearance, or they'd have an appearance fee. That's why if you stick closer to home, the likelihood is that you get somebody that maybe just like we talk about Junior Hanley, or you got a track promoters panel, what their needs, goals, coming up, work together. There's so much that you we can look at. You could do an APC panel, have the top late model racers there. I think not Ryan, yeah, Kyle Steckley there, and you had Josh Stoddy there, but you could have Alex Nagy, Daryl Timmermans, uh, Kendra Adams was there, so you could have done a little panel right there for APC. So there's always going to be around 5 to 10 racers, no matter what, uh, normally of each division. So you could do a Peterborough Speedway panel. You could do a Sunset. Like, think about all the representation that's there, and yeah, you could say, well, will people tune up? Like, will they show up to watch these? I don't know. I really don't, but I think that that would be really cool. Um, it would be a ton of work, but when we're talking autograph sessions, we're talking about merch, we're talking about panels. This is all stuff that I think we've seen on the car side, right? Um, Celebrities is a tough thing. Netflix is a lot bigger, so a lot of people know those Rust Valley restorers probably a lot more. People know Chip Foose a lot more. Um, we're not on that level. Like racing in Ontario does not have that grand scale of reach that Netflix does, right? Well, there's entirely open opportunities to build and build and build. Now, you can say you might want to do a new, your own show or make a motorsports show or do it here, do it there. Right now, we got what we've got. Um, and you bring in a family to do a panel, you could do that as well. Racing families. Hell, you got the Shepherds, you got the Zardos, you have the Shaws, as Benjamin mentions as well. Like, there are so many options. You could do media, you could do photographer panel. Like, I can't remember who it was that mentioned to me to do a photographer's panel on like a racing photographer's panel, and you could get Dave Franks, you could get Derek Smith, you can get Ashley McCubbin, um, like people that maybe don't get the recognition that they deserve. Um, like there's all sorts of stuff, tons of giveaways, stuff like this goes a long way, and what we want to do is continue to build and grow each and every year. I mean, I think it's a great thing that coming out of the show that we have uh, that people are have ideas and they have their suggestions of what they want to see. You know, I want to see Andy Camrath and Sean Chenoweth in a go-kart race in the middle of the hall. You know, something as trivial as we're going to do a tournament between racers on a simulator. Something as simple as RC races. John Baker Jr. has, he's big with the RC racers. Have a little RC tournament with some of the big names in Ontario racing. Uh, there's, I don't want people to be defeated. I don't want people to go and say the costs are to this, or the costs are to that. And it's true. I'm not going to lie and say that people did not tell me about what their biggest issue was. But we also, if we can't do what people, want to see, we can't just back away and just not support things. That's, I think, going the wrong way, right? Build the 30 driver slot tournament at yesterday's booth, right? Feeney, build it and make it bigger, right? It is definitely something to continue to grow. I mean, I think that things are on the way to getting bigger and better. I mean, look at all the response from just this show today, talking about the show. People genuinely seem to be interested in bringing their ideas, getting their ideas out there. That's what happens. And you can't tell me that people wouldn't soak up having some legends on, like, if you get people that are in charge of, say, racing or promoters or in charge of racing, so you got like something like Alex Nagy promotes all of and basically runs all of APC's racing stuff. Okay. Who wouldn't take the time to listen to what that man has to say? Not only that, Jukasa stories from Castcar. There's it's panels like that, just similar to what I think about when the Comic Con panels, where you get somebody that's genuinely interested in the topic that is hosting and can just go off the cuff and chat with uh, these people and have racers from whatever age to whatever age. It can be a 45-minute session. If you constantly have shows going on, let people sit down, let people take in what's happening. Because you know what, people might sit down because they're tired. It's hard to walk on the concrete that whole time. So if you have opportunities for people to do that, you have giveaways. I think ticket giveaways to the tracks would be great too. I don't know if anybody did that this weekend at the show. Um, I know it's the opportunity to do registrations, opportunity to build and build and build for your racing season. Yeah, I mean, hell, there you go. We had cornhole going on at the booth, and believe it or not, people were interested in that interactiveness. That's the key. Kids, make it interactive for them. I don't know if they allow, like, I don't really remember so much if we allow the kids to. I please help me because I can't remember if they even allow the kids to get into the race cars at the show. Sorry, I'm just plugging in my computer because our conversation is so good, and I knocked the cord out. But the the conversation was so good about all of this, and apologies. Um, Interactiveness is always a big thing, and I think you've got guys. I mean, Chenoweth. There we go, right here. Hold on. This is Lane Zardo um, commenting, and I take what Lane Zardo says as extremely important because it is um, uh, extremely important to hear from what someone who's been around racing in Ontario for so long. We had the Canadian Motorsports Expo, which stopped about 10 years ago. It was a month before Motorama at the same international center, but only used half the venue. It would be cool to have it make a comeback. Is that by the same promoters, Lane, or was it a different promoter? Um, I know that people were getting they were okay, so people were getting into race cars. Okay, not till last year because even though we asked we asked not to allow them last year because then they thought they can get into every car. Yeah, that's a good point. Um, and throw it and throw. Sorry, I'm not sure what that is. Um, whole show needs to be rethought, make it more modern, get a DJ playing, pit crew challenge, barbecue food. Now you're talking. Hauler tours, great. Kart racing, great idea. I love all what you just said there, Craig. And I mean, you can spearhead what we want here. Um, but I like the idea, what Lane just said. Use the same place. Don't use the entire, thing. But can you imagine what we could get in that first hall? You know, build the second hall. The second hall can still be like your vendor spot. That third hall, though, I still think you get your McGuire stage, but you make it a little bit bigger for panels for racing. I mean, it's if it can be done through Motorama, excellent. I'm not going to go out there and wish ill on anything because it's still a place that's given us, they gave us, and they've given us so much, and I am so appreciative because they didn't have to do the podcast corner. They didn't have to do that. They could have said no to us doing an autograph session. Um, they could have said no to having us. Yeah, we need youthful fans. They are not interested in a boring car show with stuffy old car guys. Let's be realistic. Yeah, Craig, I guess yeah, that's definitely part of it. You can't tell me if you had a PS4 there with um NASCAR whatever up on the, excuse me, NASCAR 25, put that up on a big screen and have tournaments like iRacing availability. Like iRacing being there would have been huge, would be huge. All the tracks being there, put on hell, you could even, I mean, I don't know how realistic it is to have actual racing in, but you know, I just keep thinking about like those junior lates. Will those junior lates be able to do something if they just kind of ran around? But maybe not, right? I think you'd probably like you just on a flat little track or something like that. I like an inside, like literally like a junior late model invitational at the friggin' show. Like how cool would that be? Um, it just it is. There's so this is the thing is that this is what I hope. And I don't want anybody at the show to take this as uh, being ungrateful. Definitely not. I mean, I would go to bat and promote the show anytime. And I just want that, I want it to be so that we can continue to grow. I mean, I think that is, no, absolutely not charging. We're not, no, not charging people to race iRacing. I think like that the idea is to get people interested in motorsports. And I think that's the difference, right? Is we can't really do that in one small little hole here, right? And even remember the NASCAR trailer was there and they showed you. I would have loved, yeah, would have loved to see the inside of a NASCAR team's trailer. And you cannot tell me for a second that NASCAR Canada would not want to have their hauler there, or um, plain and simple, even if you put it out there, Glenn Stires would have his. Hell, we could literally have a Glenn Stires wing. Hell, that first haul, you could literally just ask Glenn Stires to bring every one of his friggin' race cars, his hauler, and set up the Oshweekend Speedway booth, and they could literally just have it an ode to Glenn Stires in that first hallway. I don't believe they had iRacing set up though. I think that, well, maybe it wasn't, it was the Nova simulators that were there. Yeah, but I believe it was that was more of a karting thing, right? I'm talking about like short track racing too. Show at the GSR shop. Yeah, I mean, if there was somebody that would do it, it would be Glenn, right? Um, but overall, I had a blast. I think there was a lot more beautiful cars than where there were awards. I'll go out and say that, there was several really great looking race cars this year. I am a very big fan of bright colors. Connor Maltese's Super Stock, yes, please. I love the way that that car looks. Uh, Cole and Carter, once again, uh, the junior lates, phenomenal. Uh, Connor James's tribute car from Two Speed Motorsports, that thing is a work of beauty. Nathaniel Greenway, I already know his, I knew about his car beforehand, and Nathaniel's car. And when I tell you, I think my favorite car, racing wise, is a Bandolero. I never thought I would ever say, because if anybody remembers me, I said that I don't really like the way the Bandoleros look, but Keegan Moats, the color on his Bandolero, the design, I I don't know anybody that's going to say that that car doesn't look good. Um, Sam mentioned that red. I believe it was Sean Murray put it together, um, and the big difference is that it was hoisted up during the show, and that made a big difference because all of a sudden there was pictures of it off of that today and like actually out like parked sideways, and I was like, all right, I am sold. Um, Not that I wasn't sold already, but uh, it it is gonna be a great year for schemes on cars because if this was the start, Cole Burrows, I can't say I loved last year's as much as I love this year's. This year's Cole Burrows scheme is phenomenal. Um, Brandon Feeney bringing out his mod with a brand new look as well. Needed to see a little bit more mods out there. I'd like to see OMRS out there, Super Outlaws, or like Super Lates, uh, some midgets. We didn't have any midgets there. No Can-Ams and no Outlaws or no Hooligan ones either. So I mean, again, there's these divisions out there. Um, we've got Will Marsh is mentioned here as well. Just before I guess we wrap up, that they're looking for a new track promoter. If you're interested in the opportunity, this is Buxton Speedway. Finding out all the details, please contact him. Um, it is definitely, the opportunity there if somebody wants to get involved with Buxton Speedway, new track promoter. Definitely look at contacting Will, see what's involved. Um, Do it for Dale. Nice to see you, buddy. Uh, hey, buddy. I wish I could have been at the show. I love the photos you post. Thank you. Uh, the Yeah, I mean, I would have loved for you to be there as well, but I understand. Like, it is extremely busy. Extremely, yeah, John, get on that. Seriously, get on that, John. Don't waste no time. Um, yes, it would track promoting. Yeah, and for Buxton Speedway. I'm telling you, they're getting a big relaunch this last year. Um, Even bigger this year. And let's be honest, I think them being at the show, Will mentioned it that this is the first time they'd ever been at the show. I want to see what numbers do too. I mean, um, I don't know what we're looking at right now, but I think we were over like 15,000 impressions over one day. So, uh, solid, really solid. And um, you know what? I really appreciate everybody that was there at the show. I appreciate all the drivers that took time to speak with me, all the families, all the people in charge. Um, I really think that this year's show felt much bigger than previous years, and you know what? I wanted people to put it out there. I wanted us to talk about it. Again, I'm not going to go out there and be negative about the show. I think the show was phenomenal. I do think there's things that we can do better, and I know that the people in charge know that. I mean, that's what comes with running a show, comes with running a track, running anything, doing any sort of job out there. It's going to help. I didn't say pain in the ass, dads, Rick. You're never a pain in the ass, buddy. Um, it is I hate to say that I have more ideas. We just finished it. I should be trying to think about anything but that right now, but all I'm thinking about now is all of what you guys have talked about tonight. And you know what? I I would love it if we are able to build something big here. And bring people, bring partners, bring and just let's go Canadian here. Let's really bring these Canadian corporations in to motorsports because God knows that we need them. And Canadian businesses, they deserve to be that pushed to the max, especially now. And we do a hell of a job, and we want to prove that we don't need, uh, you know, we don't need a ton to make a really, really great racing community. We just need to keep building and be positive and grow. It's really hard to do it because we're fans first and we think with our heart and we act with our heart, but at the end of the day, we are the best promoters for the sport. Um, the fans, those involved, uh, it dies or it lives with the people that are currently in it. So let's keep on it. I want to wish you all of you guys a very solid week. I'm on vacation now, so I'm going to be taking myself a little bit of a break from the shows for the rest of the week, uh, which is great. I'm excited about that. To have a little bit of a break before we get back to next week's show. Uh, Make sure you guys are tuning in GeForce TV later on Wednesday. Clinton and Adam will be back for Race Rivals. They're not going to be on tomorrow right now. And you know what? Let's continue to grow our racing community, um, not just SNS, but everybody. Let's continue to grow Jomo Media. Do it for Dale. Um, let's continue. Wide World of Motorsports. Let's grow. Let's try and bring more and more companies in, and let's have fun doing it, everybody. But Motoroma, Motorama 2025 is done, and so is OnTrack Weekly for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate you. And you know what? Subscribe to our YouTube channel, GeForce TV, and follow Stickers and Scuffs as well. We really appreciate it. Um, I'm just going to comment here from Will just before we wrap up. And he says Buxton will be back next year with a bigger booth. If there's any tracks or racing teams that would like to come together from now until the end to come up with new ideas to bring in more race fans, please contact him. So definitely reach out to Will, and he he'll expect to hear your call. So have yourselves a great week. KMK is about to go hibernate for the rest of the week, so have yourselves a great week, everybody. We'll catch you all next week on OnTrack Weekly.